The first sound anyone notices is her breath, short, panicked, catching in her throat as if the air itself has turned against her. "Don't touch that," the store manager snaps, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I said don't touch it." Every head in the luxury boutique turns. The young black woman freezes mid-step, her hand hovering inches away from a glass display case that glitters under white showroom lights. Gold bracelets, diamond pendants, things that cost more than she has ever held in her life. Her fingers tremble as she pulls her hand back, clutching the strap of her worn canvas bag like a lifeline. I wasn't," she starts, but he doesn't let her finish. "You people always say that," he scoffs loudly, making sure everyone hears. "You come in here pretending to browse, wasting my staff's time. This is not a museum. If you can't afford it, don't breathe on it." A ripple of uncomfortable murmurs spreads through the store. Phones rise discreetly. Someone whispers, "Is he serious?" Another shakes their head but says nothing. A woman near the counter bites her lip and looks away. No one steps forward. The girl's cheeks burn. Heat floods her face as if every eye in the room is a spotlight exposing something shameful about her existence. She is small, early 20s maybe, but in this moment she feels even smaller, crushed beneath the weight of judgment she didn't earn. "I just wanted to ask about the price," she says softly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the store's air conditioning. "I'm not trying to steal anything." The manager laughs. It's a cold, ugly sound. "Ask about the price," he repeats, glancing her up and down with open disgust. "Look at you. Those shoes are falling apart. You think I'm stupid. You think I don't know why you're really here." He steps closer, invading her space. "You should be grateful I don't call security right now," he continues, louder, crueler. "Actually, maybe I should save everyone the trouble." Her eyes glisten. She shakes her head quickly. "Please," she whispers, "I just need a minute." A minute, that's all she's asking for, a moment of dignity, a single breath without being crushed by suspicion. But he isn't done. "Please," he mocks. "That's what you all say when you get caught. This store caters to real customers, people with class, people with money." "Not," he stops himself, smirking. "Not charity cases." The word charity hits her harder than a slap. Her shoulders slump, her lips part as if to defend herself, but nothing comes out. What could she say that would matter here? The truth, that she's desperate, that she hasn't slept, that every step she took to get here was fueled by fear and hope tangled together so tightly she can't tell them apart anymore. The crowd watches. Some pretend to examine jewelry. Some glance at their phones. A few openly stare, eyes wide, feeding on the drama. No one intervenes. The silence screams. Tears spill down her cheeks, silent and unstoppable. She wipes them away quickly, embarrassed to be seen crying, embarrassed to exist in a space that has already decided she doesn't belong. "I'm sorry," she says, the words breaking apart as they leave her mouth. "I'm sorry for bothering you." The manager folds his arms, victorious. "That's right," he says. "Now turn around and walk out before I embarrass you even." Her heart pounds so hard she can hear it in her ears. She turns slightly toward the exit, legs weak, shame wrapping around her like chains, and that's when the atmosphere shifts. A subtle change, almost imperceptible. Someone behind her clears their throat. It's calm, controlled, not loud but powerful in a way that makes the hairs on the back of her neck rise. "Is this how you treat customers here?" a voice asks from the crowd. The manager scoffs without even turning around. "This doesn't concern you, sir. I'm handling a situation." There's a pause, the kind of pause that feels heavy. Intentional. The girl doesn't turn yet. She's too afraid to hope. Too afraid that if she looks, the spell will break and nothing will change. But something about that voice, steady, composed, unmistakably confident, feels different. The crowd begins to murmur again, louder this time. "Who's that? He sounds important. Why is he dressed like that?" The manager finally turns, irritation etched across his face. "What do you want?" he snaps. "If you're not buying anything, move along." The stranger steps forward just enough for the light to catch the edge of a tailored coat, polished shoes, a posture that doesn't bend under pressure. "I want to understand," the stranger says evenly, eyes flicking from the trembling girl to the manager's smug face, "why a young woman asking a simple question is being publicly humiliated in your store." The manager laughs again, but this time it's forced. "Because she doesn't belong here," he says, "and I won't apologize for protecting my business." The girl swallows hard, staring at the floor. Her world feels like it's collapsing in slow motion. "Before we go any further, let me ask you this question of the day. Have you ever been judged, dismissed, or humiliated because of how you looked, where you came from, or what someone assumed about you? Tell us your story in the comments and let us know where you're watching from today. Your voice matters here. Back in the store, the stranger takes one more step forward, and for the first time there's a flicker of uncertainty in the manager's eyes. because he has no idea at all, who is standing right behind the girl he just tried to destroy. And that man knows exactly who she is and why she's here. Let's go back to how this story truly began this morning. The morning begins before the sun fully rises. In a narrow, aging apartment complex tucked between abandoned storefronts and cracked sidewalks, Aaliyah Brooks wakes to the sound of coughing. Not her own. She opens her eyes instantly, heart already racing, and turns toward the small bed across the room where her mother lies propped up on thin pillows. The room is dim, painted in a tired shade of beige that has peeled and faded over the years. The heater rattles weakly in the corner, fighting against the cold that seeps through poorly sealed windows. Aaliyah sits up, swinging her legs over the side of her mattress. "Mom," she whispers. Her mother, Lena Brooks, tries to wave her off, but the effort sends another fit of coughing through her frail body. Aaliyah is on her feet in seconds, crossing the room to rub her mother's back gently, the way she's done 1,000 times before. "I'm okay," Lena croaks between breaths. Just give me a second." Aaliyah forces a small smile, though worry gnaws at her chest. At 23 years old, she has learned how to smile through fear, how to tuck panic neatly behind calm eyes. It's a skill poverty teaches early. "You don't have to be strong for me," Aaliyah says softly. "Just breathe." Eventually, the coughing subsides. Lena leans back, exhausted, her face pale and drawn. Aaliyah fetches a glass of water from the tiny kitchenette, 3 steps from the bed to the sink, and hands it to her mother with both hands as if it's something precious. Because it is. Everything is precious when you have so little. The apartment smells faintly of yesterday's rice and cleaning solution. The furniture doesn't match. The couch sags in the middle. A single photo frame sits on the windowsill. Aaliyah at high school graduation, cap crooked, smile wide, her mother standing beside her with pride shining through illness even then. Aaliyah was supposed to go to college. She was accepted, even earned a partial scholarship. But life doesn't always respect plans, especially not for girls like her. When Lena's health declined, Aaliyah stayed. She worked instead. She learned to stretch paychecks that were already too thin. She learned to choose which bills could wait and which absolutely couldn't. And lately, none of them could. Aaliyah moves quietly around the apartment, careful not to waste energy or time. She checks the medicine bottles lined up on the counter. Most are empty. One has just 2 pills left. Her chest tightens. She knows exactly what today is. The day she has been dreading all week. She helps her mother sit up a little straighter, then gently brushes Lena's graying hair back from her face. "I'm going out for a bit," Aaliyah says, keeping her voice light. "I'll be back before lunch." Lena studies her daughter carefully. Mothers always know when something is wrong. "Don't overwork yourself," Lena says, "and don't let anyone talk down to you." Aaliyah smiles again, this one softer, sadder. "I won't." But even as she says it, she knows the truth. The world talks down to girls like her every day. Aaliyah steps into the bathroom, splashes water on her face, and looks at her reflection. Her eyes are tired but kind. Her skin glows softly despite everything. She ties her hair back neatly, choosing simplicity over attention. She pulls on her cleanest sweater, slightly faded at the elbows, and the same worn shoes she's had for 2 years. She doesn't dress to impress. She dresses to survive. Before leaving, she slips a folded piece of paper into her bag, medical paperwork. Prescriptions, proof, evidence that she hopes will make someone listen today. She pauses at the door, looking back at her mother. "I love you," she says. Lena smiles weakly. "I love you more." Outside, the neighborhood is waking up slowly. A bus hisses at the corner. A man sweeps the sidewalk in front of his shop. Kids with heavy backpacks wait for school buses, laughing loudly, unaware of how fragile life can be. Aaliyah watches them for a moment. She remembers being that carefree once. As she walks, neighbors greet her. Mrs. Collins from downstairs asks about her mom. Aaliyah answers politely, never burdening anyone with the full truth. She has learned that people have their own struggles. She doesn't want to be another weight on their backs. Despite everything, Aaliyah carries herself with quiet dignity. She helps others whenever she can. She volunteers at the community center on weekends. She once gave up her only winter coat to a stranger who needed it more, not because she had extra, but because empathy doesn't wait for abundance. Her dream, if she ever allowed herself to say it out loud, was to become a nurse. She wanted to heal, to be the calm voice in the room when fear took over, to give people the care her mother deserved but rarely received. But dreams are expensive, and this morning reality is relentless. As she walks toward the bus stop, Aaliyah tightens her grip on her bag. Her steps are steady, but her thoughts spiral. Just get through today, she tells herself, just one step at a time. She doesn't know yet how cruel the day will become. She doesn't know how many eyes will judge her without knowing her story. She doesn't know that her dignity will be tested in front of strangers who will choose silence over justice. But she knows this. She loves her mother. And love makes you brave in ways you never expected. The bus pulls up. Aaliyah climbs aboard, pays her fare, and finds a seat near the window. As the city rolls past, her reflection stares back at her, hope and fear tangled together. Today is not just another day. It is the day everything could fall apart or change forever, and she has no idea how close she is to both. The paper in Aaliyah's bag feels heavier with every mile the bus travels. She keeps her hand pressed against it, fingers curled protectively around the folded documents as if they might disappear if she lets go. Outside the window, the city shifts from cracked sidewalks and boarded-up stores to cleaner streets, taller buildings, and polished glass reflecting a world that seems to belong to someone else. Her phone buzzes, a text from the pharmacy. Reminder, prescription for Lena Brooks remains unpaid. Medication will be held until balance is cleared. Aaliyah's throat tightens. She already knows this. She's known it all night. She didn't sleep because of it. The medication isn't optional. It isn't something they can wait and see about. Without it, her mother's breathing worsens. The pain increases. The hospital visits become more frequent and more expensive, and they are out of time. Aaliyah pulls the phone closer, rereading the message like it might change. It doesn't. Her bank account is nearly empty. Rent is overdue. Utilities are hanging by a thread. She's borrowed from everyone she could without destroying what little pride she has left. Her manager at the diner cut her hours last week, said business was slow, but she noticed the new hire who got her shifts didn't look like her. She exhales slowly, fighting the familiar sting of tears. What else can I do? She wonders. Last night she'd sat at the kitchen table long after her mother fell asleep, staring at the numbers on a scrap of paper. Adding, subtracting, hoping math would suddenly bend in her favor. It didn't. That's when the idea came to her. Not a good one. Not a proud one, but a possible one. The luxury jewelry store downtown. She'd seen it from the outside 100 times, gleaming windows, security guards, names etched in gold lettering. A place that screamed wealth without apology. A place where a single necklace cost more than her yearly income. But she also knew something else. They offered short-term buybacks, emergency collateral loans, quiet transactions for people who didn't want banks involved. She didn't own much of value. But she owned one thing. Aaliyah reaches into her bag and pulls out a small velvet pouch, worn thin with age. She doesn't open it, not yet, but she knows what's inside. Her grandmother's ring. It's simple. A modest gold band with a tiny diamond barely catching the light. It's not flashy, not trendy, but it's real, solid, passed down through 3 generations of women who survived more than anyone ever knew. Her grandmother gave it to her the night before she died. Don't sell this unless you have no other choice, she'd said, pressing it into Aaliyah's palm. This ring carries our story. Aaliyah swallows hard. I have no other choice, she thinks. The bus slows as it approaches her stop. Her heart starts to race, not from excitement, but from dread. She steps off onto a wide sidewalk lined with designer storefronts. Everything here is polished, clean, cold. People walk with purpose, dressed in tailored coats and expensive shoes. No one rushes. No one looks worried. Aaliyah suddenly feels like she's wearing a sign that says I don't belong. She ducks into a quiet alcove and finally opens the velvet pouch. The ring rests in her palm, warm from her touch. I'm sorry, she whispers to it as if it can hear her. I'll get it back, I promise. Her phone buzzes again. This time it's a voicemail from the hospital. She doesn't even need to listen to know what it says. She listens anyway. Ms. Brooks, this is a reminder that your mother's treatment plan depends on the medication prescribed. Missing doses may result in severe complications. Please contact us as soon as possible. Severe complications. Aaliyah presses her forehead against the cold stone wall and closes her eyes. Fear crashes over her in waves. What if she can't fix this? What if she loses her mother because she couldn't find the money fast enough? Her breathing becomes shallow. Her hands shake. For a moment, a dangerous moment, she considers giving up, walking away, letting the world take what it always seems determined to take from people like her. But then she sees her mother's face in her mind, the way she smiles even when she's hurting, the way she always tells Aaliyah she's proud of her. That memory steadies her. Aaliyah straightens her shoulders. She wipes her eyes, tucks the ring back into its pouch, and slips it into her bag alongside the paperwork. She knows what this could cost her emotionally. She knows how people look at her in places like this. She knows humiliation is a real possibility. But she also knows this. Pride will not save her mother's life. As she steps back onto the sidewalk, her legs feel heavy like she's walking into a storm she can't avoid. Every step toward the jewelry store is a step away from comfort and toward judgment. She rehearses what she'll say. I'd like to ask about a short-term loan. I have an item I'd like evaluated. Please. Her chest aches with anxiety. The storefront comes into view, glass gleaming, guards posted, customers moving in and out effortlessly. Aaliyah slows. This is it. Once she walks in, there's no turning back. No guarantee of kindness, no promise of understanding. Only the chance, slim, fragile but real, that she can save her mother. She takes a deep breath and makes the painful decision to step inside, knowing full well that dignity might be the price she has to pay. The doors of the jewelry store glide open with a soft, almost mocking chime. Aaliyah pauses just outside the threshold. The glass reflects her back at herself, worn shoes, modest sweater, tired eyes that hold too much responsibility for someone her age. Behind her reflection, the street bustles, alive and familiar. Ahead of her, the store glows with a quiet, intimidating luxury. For a brief moment, she considers turning around. No one would stop her. No one would know. But the image of her mother struggling for breath pushes her forward. Aaliyah steps inside. The air is cooler here, filtered and expensive. Everything gleams. White marble floors reflect chandeliers that sparkle like frozen stars. Glass cases stretch across the room, displaying jewels that look more like art than accessories. Soft classical music hums in the background, wrapping the space in an atmosphere of exclusivity. Immediately, she feels it, the weight of being seen and judged. A sales associate glances at her from behind a counter, eyes flicking over her clothes before returning to their work. Another whispers something to a colleague, their gaze lingering a second too long. Aaliyah keeps her head down and walks slowly, careful not to touch anything. Her heart pounds with each step, echoing in her ears. She can almost hear her thoughts over the music. Just ask, be polite, be calm. She approaches a counter and waits and waits. Customers who arrived after her are greeted instantly. Smiles, warm voices, offers of champagne. Aaliyah stands invisible, hands clasped in front of her, shrinking under the quiet message that she is not a priority here. Finally, she clears her throat. "Excuse me," she says softly. "I was hoping to speak with someone about," the associate sighs, cutting her off. "What is it?" "I wanted to ask if you offer short-term buybacks," Aaliyah continues, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Or evaluations," the associate raises an eyebrow. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Aaliyah admits. "I didn't know I needed one," the associate's lips tighten. "We're very busy," Aaliyah nods quickly. "I understand, I can wait." She steps aside, heart sinking but still hopeful. Waiting is something she knows how to do. As minutes pass, her anxiety grows. She clutches her bag tighter, feeling the ring inside like a quiet promise and a burden. Her thoughts spiral. What if they laugh? What if they don't even look at it? What if I've come all this way for nothing? She studies the other customers discreetly. Men in tailored suits, women in elegant coats, confident smiles, easy laughter. She feels like an intruder in a world that wasn't built for her. Still, she waits. Hope doesn't leave her side. It walks shakily beside her, fragile but determined. Eventually, movement at the front of the store catches her attention. A man in a sharp suit strides across the floor with authority. His shoes click against the marble. The sales associates straighten immediately. Conversations hush. Someone whispers, "That's the manager." Stomach tightens. This is the man. She watches him interact with other customers, smiling, attentive, charming. He laughs easily, gestures broadly, exudes confidence. When his eyes finally land on Aaliyah, the warmth vanishes. His gaze hardens, scanning her from head to toe in a single, dismissive sweep. He walks toward her. "What's the problem here?" he asks sharply, his tone already irritated. Aaliyah swallows. I was hoping to ask about a buyback or loan," she says, reaching slowly for her bag. "I have something of value." He cuts her off with a raised hand. "This is not a pawn shop," he says coldly. "We deal in high-end clientele." "I understand," Aaliyah replies quickly, "but I was told you might." "Who told you that?" he snaps. She hesitates. I read it online," he scoffs. "Then you read wrong." Her cheeks burn. "I just need someone to look at it," she pleads softly. "Please." His eyes flick toward the security guard, then back to her. "You need to leave," he says. "You're making customers uncomfortable." Aaliyah's breath catches. "I haven't done anything," she says, barely above a whisper. The manager's expression darkens. "I said leave." The room feels suddenly smaller. The music seems louder, the stares sharper. Fear crawls up Aaliyah's spine, but she stands her ground, barely. "Just a minute," she says, voice trembling. "That's all I'm asking." He steps closer, lowering his voice but sharpening it with contempt. "You don't belong here," he says. "And if you don't walk out right now, I'll have you escorted." Her legs feel weak. Tears threaten again. She looks around, hoping, praying for someone to meet her eyes with understanding. No one does. The doors are just a few steps away. She could leave now, save herself from what's coming, but then she thinks of her mother's labored breathing. The voicemail, the empty pill bottles. Aaliyah lifts her chin slightly, summoning the last of her courage. "I'm not trying to cause trouble," she says. "I just need help." The manager's jaw tightens, and that's when his voice rises, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Security," he calls out. "We have a situation." The word situation hits her like a sentence. As eyes turn toward her and whispers swell, Aaliyah realizes the worst fear she carried with her on this journey is about to come true. She is no longer invisible. She is about to be judged, out loud. And she hasn't even taken the ring out of her bag yet. Her heart pounds as the confrontation fully ignites, and there is no escape now. The word security echoes through the store like a gunshot. Aaliyah flinches. Two uniformed guards shift near the entrance, their attention snapping toward her instantly. Conversations stop. The soft, classical music continues to play, absurdly cheerful against the tension tightening in the air. "I didn't do anything wrong," Aaliyah says quickly, her voice trembling as she looks from the guards to the manager. "I'm just asking a question." The manager turns fully toward her now, no longer bothering to keep his disdain quiet. "You've been loitering," he says loudly. "You've disrupted my staff, and now you're arguing." "I wasn't arguing," she whispers. "I was asking for help." A scoff ripples from somewhere in the crowd. The manager folds his arms, tilting his head as if examining a stain on the floor. "Help," he repeats mockingly. "That's rich." Aaliyah's fingers dig into the strap of her bag. Her knuckles turn white. "I have something to sell," she says, forcing the words out despite the fear choking her. "Something valuable, I just need an evaluation." The manager laughs openly now. "You," he says, his voice dripping with disbelief. "You expect me to believe you walked in here carrying something worth our time?" A murmur runs through the onlookers. "She looks serious," someone whispers. "Probably stolen," another voice mutters. The word slices through Aaliyah's chest. Her eyes snap toward the sound, but no one meets her gaze. Faces turn away, shoulders shrug. Silence swallows the cruelty and lets it live. "I would never steal," Aaliyah says, her voice breaking. "That's not who I am." The manager steps closer, invading her space again. She can smell his cologne, sharp, overpowering. "That's exactly what thieves say," he replies. "You people think you can just walk into places like this and play pretend." The phrase "you people" lands heavy, unmistakable. Aaliyah's breath stutters. "I'm a customer," she says weakly, "or I'm trying to be." The manager raises his voice even higher. "No, customers buy, customers belong, you don't." The guards approach slowly, their boots thudding against marble. They don't look angry, just indifferent, like this is routine, like she is a problem to be removed, not a person to be heard. "Please," Aaliyah says again, tears sliding freely now. "I just need a moment." A woman near the counter shifts uncomfortably, glancing between Aaliyah and the manager. Her lips part as if she might say something, then she looks away. A man pretends to inspect a watch, though his eyes never leave the scene. Phones rise higher now. Someone is recording openly. The humiliation deepens. The manager gestures toward Aaliyah's bag. "What's in there?" he demands. Her heart pounds violently. "I personal items," she says, "and paperwork." "Open it," he orders. Aaliyah freezes. "I don't have to," she says softly. His eyes narrow. "If you have nothing to hide, you won't mind," he snaps. "Unless you're hiding something you don't want us to see." The implication is clear. Her hands shake as she slowly unzips her bag. She pulls out folded documents, medical forms, prescriptions, hospital letters. They spill slightly onto the counter, stark and unglamorous against polished glass. She hesitates, then reaches for the velvet pouch. "This," she says quietly, holding it up. "This is what I wanted you to look at." The manager doesn't even touch it. He laughs again, louder than before. "A ring?" he says incredulously. "You expect me to believe that little thing is worth anything?" "It belonged to my grandmother," Aaliyah says, voice cracking. "It's real gold I just need." "I don't care whose it belonged to," he cuts in. "Sentimental junk doesn't pay bills." Aaliyah's knees feel weak. "It's not junk," she insists, desperation bleeding into her words. "Please. Look at it." The manager waves his hand dismissively as if shooing away a fly. "This conversation is over," he says. "You've wasted enough of my time." He turns to the guards. "Escort her out." One guard reaches gently but firmly for Aaliyah's arm. The touch sends a jolt through her. "Don't," she pleads, pulling back instinctively. "Please don't touch me." The manager's voice sharpens. "Stop making a scene." "I'm not trying to," she sobs. My mother is sick. I need the money for her medicine." The words spill out before she can stop them. The store goes quiet. For half a second, there's a chance, just a flicker, that compassion might break through. The manager snorts. Everyone has a sob story, he says coldly. That doesn't mean we hand out money to strangers who walk in off the street. Aaliyah's face crumples. I'm not asking for free money, she says. I'm asking for a chance. He shakes his head in disgust. You should have thought about that before coming in here, he replies. Now leave. The guards close in. Aaliyah looks around the store one last time at the faces watching, recording, whispering. No one steps forward. No one says her name. No one says stop. The judgment is complete. And in that moment, surrounded by wealth and witnesses, Aaliyah has never felt poorer or more alone in her life. The guard's hand hovers inches from Aaliyah's arm, waiting for permission that doesn't need to be spoken. She feels it, the finality of the moment, pressing down on her chest like a weight she can't lift. I'll go, she whispers. Her voice is so small it almost disappears into the air-conditioned hush of the store. The manager nods, satisfied. Good choice. Aaliyah bends to gather the papers that slipped from her bag. Her fingers fumble clumsily, slick with tears, medical forms, prescriptions, proof of a life lived in crisis. They don't belong here, spread out on a marble floor beneath crystal lights. A quiet laugh drifts from somewhere behind her. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. That laugh hurts more than the insults. I'm sorry, Aaliyah murmurs again, to no one in particular, to the store, to the people watching, to the ring in her hand, to her mother, to herself. She stands slowly, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the floor. The guard lightly takes her elbow now, not rough, but not kind either, just procedural, just another removal. As they guide her toward the exit, the manager delivers one final blow. Next time, he says loudly, making sure the entire store hears, know your place before you embarrass yourself. The words slam into her back. Her chest tightens. Her vision blurs. She wants to scream. To shout that she does know her place, that her place has been beside hospital beds, behind cash registers, at bus stops before sunrise, that her place has been holding families together when the world tried to tear them apart. But none of that matters here, so she says nothing. The doors loom ahead, glass and unforgiving, freedom maybe, but also defeat. Aaliyah's legs feel like they might give out before she reaches them. She stops just short of the exit. I just wanted help, she says, barely audible. The guard hesitates, glancing at the manager. Move her out, the manager snaps. Aaliyah closes her eyes. This is it. This is the moment she will remember forever, the moment the world confirmed what it's been trying to teach her since childhood. That dignity is conditional. That compassion is selective. That silence is easier than justice. A sob escapes her before she can stop it. Her shoulders shake. Her breathing breaks into uneven gasps. She presses a hand to her mouth, trying to quiet herself, ashamed to be unraveling in public. I'm sorry, she repeats again and again, like an apology might fix something broken beyond repair. No one speaks. The silence presses in from all sides, heavier than any insult. It's the silence of people who saw everything and chose nothing. Aaliyah finally lifts her eyes. She meets the gaze of a woman near the counter, the same woman who looked like she might say something earlier. For a heartbeat, their eyes lock. Aaliyah's eyes are pleading, not for money, not for favors, just for acknowledgement. The woman looks away. That's when something inside Aaliyah cracks completely. She turns toward the exit, clutching her bag to her chest like armor that no longer works. Each step feels like wading through water. Her ears ring. Her thoughts blur. I failed, she thinks. I failed her. Her mother's face flashes in her mind. Pale, tired, trusting. I'm coming back with nothing, Aaliyah realizes. Nothing but shame. The doors slide open. Cold air from outside rushes in, brushing her tear-streaked face. The city noise floods back, cars, voices, life continuing as if nothing just happened. Aaliyah takes one step forward, then another. Behind her, the manager's voice rises again, irritated. Clear the entrance, you're blocking customers. The guard releases her arm, and just like that, she is alone. Aaliyah stumbles onto the sidewalk, blinking against the daylight. The brightness feels cruel after the dim humiliation inside. People pass her without slowing. A few glance at her face, red and wet with tears, then quickly look away. She moves a few feet from the entrance and stops. Her body finally gives in. She sinks onto a low stone bench, shoulders caving inward as she curls around herself. She presses her forehead to her knees, clutching her bag so tightly her hands ache. Her sobs come freely now, deep, shaking, unrestrained. This is rock bottom, not the lack of money, not the fear of losing her mother. But the moment she realizes she is completely alone in her pain, no safety net, no advocate, no voice loud enough to matter. Inside the store, life resumes, laughter, transactions, the soft clink of jewelry being tried on, The manager straightens his jacket, satisfied that the problem has been handled. Outside, Aaliyah gasps for air. "I tried," she whispers to herself. "I really tried." She opens her bag with trembling hands and pulls out the velvet pouch one last time. The ring rests in her palm, dull in the sunlight now, stripped of hope. "I'm sorry," she tells it again. "I couldn't do it." Her phone buzzes, another notification. She doesn't need to look. She already knows what it means, time running out, consequences waiting. Aaliyah wipes her face with her sleeve and forces herself to stand. Her legs wobble, but she stays upright. She has to go home. She has to face her mother. She has to explain why the medicine won't come today. That thought hurts more than everything that came before. She turns away from the store, taking a few slow steps down the sidewalk, head bowed. She doesn't see the man who has stopped just inside the entrance. She doesn't see the way his calm expression has hardened into something else entirely. She doesn't hear his quiet, dangerous words as he looks at the manager. "Stop!" She doesn't know, yet, that the silence is about to be broken, and that the lowest moment of her life has just been witnessed by someone who will not let it stand. "Stop!" The word is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It carries weight, controlled, deliberate, impossible to ignore. The manager freezes mid-step, his hand still adjusting the cuff of his jacket as he turns back toward the voice. Conversations around the store falter. A sales associate lowers the champagne flute she was offering a customer. Even the guards pause. A tall white man steps forward from near the back of the boutique. He is dressed simply, no flashy logos, no exaggerated luxury, but everything about him speaks of quiet authority. His coat is impeccably tailored. His posture is straight, unhurried. His silver-streaked hair is neatly combed, and his eyes, sharp, observant, unmistakably intelligent, move calmly across the room. He looks first at the open doors. At the girl standing just outside, wiping tears from her face, trying desperately to hold herself together. Then he looks back at the manager. "I said stop," the man repeats, his voice steady. "This ends now." The manager frowns, irritation flashing across his face. "Sir, I don't know who you are," he says curtly, "but this is a private matter. We've already handled the situation." The man tilts his head slightly, not in anger, in consideration. "Handled," he echoes. "From what I just witnessed, you humiliated a young woman in front of an entire store." A murmur ripples through the crowd. Someone whispers, "Is he defending her?" The manager straightens, defensive now. "She was causing a disturbance. We have a right to refuse service." The man takes a step closer. "Refusing service," he says evenly, "does not require public shaming." The manager scoffs. "With respect, sir, you didn't hear the whole story." "I heard enough," the man replies. His gaze shifts briefly to the sales associates, the guards, the customers. It's not accusatory, but it is penetrating, as if he's taking inventory of every silent witness. Then he walks toward the entrance. The automatic doors slide open again. Outside, Aaliyah stands a few steps away, frozen, confused by the sudden change in energy behind her. She turns slowly, her eyes red, her face streaked with tears. The man steps out onto the sidewalk and stops a respectful distance away from her. "Miss," he says gently. Aaliyah stiffens. Instinctively, she braces herself for more humiliation, another lecture, another dismissal. "I'm sorry," she says immediately, her voice shaky. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." The man's expression softens. "You didn't," he says, "not at all." Her eyes flick up to meet his, uncertain. "I saw what happened," he continues quietly, "and I'm very sorry." No one has said that to her today. The words hit her harder than she expects. "I just wanted help," Aaliyah whispers, shame still clinging to every syllable. "I shouldn't have come." The man shakes his head slowly. "You had every right to be there." Behind them, the manager steps closer to the doorway, clearly annoyed. "Sir," he calls out, "if you're not purchasing anything, I'll have to ask you to move along as well." The man doesn't turn around. "Give us a moment," he says calmly. The manager laughs, short and sharp. "This isn't a park bench. You don't get to loiter here." The man finally looks back at him. There is no anger in his face, only certainty. "I'm not loitering," he says. "I'm intervening." The crowd leans in. Phones rise again, but this time something has changed. The tone is different, curious, alert. Aaliyah shifts uncomfortably. "It's okay," she murmurs to the man. "You don't have to." "I do," he says gently without looking at her. "Because what just happened was wrong." He turns fully now, positioning himself subtly between Aaliyah and the manager, not aggressively but protectively. The manager's jaw tightens. "You're making a bigger deal out of this than necessary," he snaps. "She was disruptive, end of story." The man's eyes narrow slightly. "Disruptive," he repeats, "because she asked a question?" Because she didn't belong, the manager blurts out, then catches himself too late. A hush falls over the entrance. Aaliyah's shoulders slump at the words, but the man beside her stiffens. Belonging, he says quietly, is not something you get to decide based on appearances. The manager rolls his eyes. Look, if you want to play hero, take her somewhere else. We run a high-end business. The man steps closer now, his voice still level but firmer. High-end businesses, he says, are defined by standards, and today you failed yours. A flicker of uncertainty crosses the manager's face. Who exactly do you think you are? He demands. The man doesn't answer right away. Instead, he turns to Aaliyah again. What's your name? He asks softly. She hesitates, then answers. Aaliyah. That's a beautiful name, he says. Aaliyah, would you be willing to come back inside with me? Her eyes widen in alarm. No, she says quickly. I can't. I don't want any more trouble. He nods, understanding her fear. You won't be alone, he assures her. And no one will speak to you that way again. The manager laughs incredulously. You're kidding. The man finally looks directly at him again. Sir, the manager says sharply, this is your last warning. Identify yourself or leave. The man holds his gaze. I will, he says calmly. In a moment. The tension thickens, coiling through the air like a held breath. Aaliyah feels it too, something shifting beneath the surface, like the ground before an earthquake. The man reaches into the inner pocket of his coat. The manager smirks, arms crossed, certain this is nothing more than an interruption from an overconfident bystander. He has no idea at all, because in the next few seconds the truth will come out and everything he thought he controlled will collapse in front of everyone he tried to impress. The man's hand emerges slowly from the inner pocket of his coat. The movement is unhurried, deliberate, so calm it makes the manager's smirk falter just a little. Between two fingers, the man holds a slim leather card holder. He opens it not with flourish but with quiet certainty and turns it so the manager can see. I was hoping, the man says evenly, that this wouldn't be necessary. The manager leans forward, irritation still etched across his face, until his eyes land on the card. Color drains from his skin. The confident posture he's been wearing like armor collapses in an instant. His shoulders stiffen. His mouth opens slightly, then closes again, as if his brain can't quite process what his eyes are reading. That's not funny, the manager stammers, forcing a laugh that sounds brittle and wrong. You can't just... The man closes the card holder and slips it back into his coat. My name is Richard Halstead, he says calmly, his voice carrying effortlessly across the suddenly silent store. And as of this morning, I am the majority owner and principal buyer of this company. A collective gasp ripples through the boutique. Phones lower, mouths fall open. Someone near the counter whispers, "Oh my God." The manager staggers back half a step. "Oh, owner," he repeats, his voice barely functioning now. That's not possible. Mr. Halstead, the buyer, was scheduled to arrive later," Richard finishes for him. "Yes, that's what I told the board." He looks around the store again, slowly this time, taking in the frozen faces, the rigid staff, the guards who suddenly don't know where to stand. I decided to come early, Richard continues. Unannounced, I wanted to see how things were run when no one thought they were being evaluated. The words sink in like stones dropped into still water. The manager's knees visibly weaken. His hands tremble at his sides. I didn't know it was you, he says quickly, panic creeping into his voice. If I had known, Richard's eyes harden for the first time. That, he says quietly, is exactly the problem. Aaliyah stands just outside the doorway, heart pounding so loudly she's sure everyone can hear it. She doesn't understand what's happening, only that the air has changed completely. Richard turns to her. Aaliyah, he says gently, would you please come back inside? She hesitates, fear still clawing at her chest. The manager lunges forward instinctively. Of course she can come back in, he says hurriedly. We'd be happy to assist her. Richard raises a single hand. Don't, he says, the word lands like a command. Aaliyah takes a cautious step inside, then another. The guards part without being told. Staff members stare at the floor. No one dares speak. Richard positions himself beside her, not in front of her this time, but with her. Sir, the manager says, his voice breaking, please understand I was just following policy. Policy. Richard repeats, let us be very clear about what I just witnessed. He turns slightly so the entire store can hear him. I saw a young woman enter this store respectfully, he says. I saw her wait patiently while others were helped ahead of her. I heard her ask for information politely. He looks directly at the manager. And I heard you accuse her of theft, demean her appearance, and publicly shame her without cause. The manager shakes his head frantically. I didn't mean it that way. You used the phrase "you people," Richard says sharply. Do you deny that? The manager opens his mouth. No sound comes out. Richard lets the silence speak. I also heard, he continues, that she explained she needed help because her mother is sick and you responded by mocking her. The crowd is deathly quiet now. Richard turns to Aaliyah again, his tone softening. Would you tell me, he asks gently, what you came here for today? Aaliyah's hands shake, but she lifts her chin. I needed money for my mother's medication, she says, voice unsteady but clear. I wanted to see if I could use my grandmother's ring as collateral just until I could pay it back. She reaches into her bag and pulls out the velvet pouch. Richard nods. May I see it? She opens it and places the ring in his palm. He examines it carefully, not dismissively, not skeptically, but with genuine attention. He turns it under the light, his expression changing almost immediately. This is a remarkable piece, he says. Late 1940s craftsmanship, real gold, the diamond is small but high quality. The manager's face goes ashen. This ring, Richard continues, is worth far more than she was asking for. A murmur of shock ripples through the crowd. Aaliyah's breath catches. It is. Richard smiles gently. Yes, and even if it weren't, that would never justify how you were treated. He turns back to the manager. You accused her of lying, Richard says. You accused her of stealing. You had her escorted out in tears. The manager's voice trembles. Mr. Halstead, please, I've worked here for years. I've always protected the brand. Richard's expression is calm but final. You didn't protect the brand, he says. You exposed it. He pauses. Effective immediately, Richard continues, his voice echoing through the store. You are terminated. A sharp inhale ripples through the room. You will turn in your keys, Richard adds. Security will escort you out, and legal will be contacting you regarding discriminatory conduct. The manager's face collapses. Please, he whispers. I'll apologize. I'll make it right. Richard shakes his head. You had your chance, he says, and you chose cruelty. Security steps forward, not toward Aaliyah this time, but toward the manager. As he's led away, his eyes flick desperately to the crowd, then to Aaliyah. She doesn't look at him. The doors slide open again. This time it's the man who humiliated her who walks out in disgrace. The silence that follows is absolute. Then Richard turns to Aaliyah. I'm sorry, he says simply, for what you endured. Her eyes fill again, but these tears are different. They are tears of disbelief, of validation, of a dignity finally restored. And for the first time since she woke up that morning, Aaliyah feels something she almost forgot how to feel. Hope. The store remains silent long after the manager is escorted out. No one moves, no one speaks. It's as if everyone inside is trying to process the same realization at once, that they just witnessed a truth they can never unsee. Richard Halstead breaks the silence. Let's take care of what actually matters now, he says gently. He turns fully toward Aaliyah. She's still standing stiffly near the entrance, shoulders tense, eyes wide, as if she's afraid this might all disappear if she moves too fast. The velvet pouch rests in her trembling hand. Come, Richard says softly, let's sit. He gestures toward a seating area near the center of the store, plush chairs usually reserved for VIP clients. Aaliyah hesitates. I don't want to cause any more trouble, she says quietly. You aren't, Richard replies without hesitation. You never were. She takes a careful step forward, then another. Her legs feel unsteady, but she moves anyway. The staff parts silently, respectfully this time. A sales associate rushes ahead to clear the chairs, her face pale with regret. Aaliyah sits on the edge of the seat, unsure where to put her hands. Richard sits across from her. First, he says, I want you to know something very clearly. What happened to you today was wrong, entirely wrong, and you did nothing to deserve it. Aaliyah's lip trembles. I kept thinking maybe I said something wrong, she admits. Maybe I should have dressed differently. Maybe I should have. No, Richard interrupts gently but firmly. None of that is true. The certainty in his voice breaks something open inside her. Tears spill freely now, but no one looks away, no one rushes her. A staff member quietly places a glass of water on the table beside her. I was so scared, Aaliyah whispers. I just needed the medicine. My mom, she's all I have. Richard nods. Tell me about her. Aaliyah takes a shaky breath and explains her mother's illness, the prescriptions, the empty bottles, the late nights, the fear of waking up one morning and finding it's too late. She doesn't dramatize it. She doesn't exaggerate. She doesn't have to. Richard listens without interrupting, his attention absolute. When she finishes, he exhales slowly. Thank you for trusting me with that, he says. Now let me tell you what's going to happen. She looks at him, unsure. First, Richard continues, your mother's medication will be paid for today in full, not just this month, for as long as she needs it. Aaliyah blinks. I can pay it back, she says quickly. I don't want charity, Richard smiles softly. This isn't charity, this is responsibility, her breath catches. What? I am now responsible, he explains, for the environment this company creates, and part of that responsibility is making sure harm is repaired, not just punished. Aaliyah covers her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. Second, Richard continues, your grandmother's ring will not be sold. He places the velvet pouch back into her hands. This stays with you, he says. It's your legacy. Her fingers close around it instinctively. But the money, you won't need it, Richard replies. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. Aaliyah, I didn't just buy this company to expand a portfolio. I bought it because I believe businesses should lift people, not crush them. He gestures around the store. This place failed you today, he says, but it also revealed you. She looks confused. Revealed me? You showed patience under pressure, he explains. Grace under cruelty, strength without violence, that matters. Richard reaches into his coat again, this time pulling out a different card. This is my personal number, he says, sliding it across the table. And this, he adds, placing a second card beside it, is the contact for a private medical care coordinator. They'll handle appointments, transportation, everything your mother needs. Aaliyah's hands shake as she looks at the cards. I don't know how to thank you, she whispers. You already have, Richard replies, by surviving. He turns to the staff now, his tone shifting, still calm but authoritative. Effective immediately, he says. Every employee here will undergo mandatory retraining on ethics, bias, and customer dignity. Any behavior like what occurred today will result in immediate termination. A few staff members nod vigorously, shame etched on their faces. And, Richard adds, this store will fund a community assistance program for emergency medical support and short-term financial relief. It will be named after the woman who showed us why it's necessary. Aaliyah looks up sharply. After me? Yes, Richard says simply. If you're willing, she swallows hard. I don't know if I'm worthy of that. Richard meets her gaze. You already proved you are. Silence settles again, but this time it's warm. Aaliyah wipes her eyes and lets out a shaky laugh. I came here thinking I'd lose everything, she says, and now I don't even know what to say. Richard smiles. Say you'll go home, be with your mother, let us handle the rest. She nods slowly. For the first time all day, the tight knot in her chest loosens. Justice was served, but not with cruelty, with compassion. And as Aaliyah stands to leave, holding her ring, her future no longer feels like a closed door. It feels like an open road. 5 years later, morning light pours through wide windows, settling gently across a bright, quiet kitchen. The space is warm and lived in plants by the sill, framed photos on the walls, the soft hum of a coffee maker in the background. Aaliyah Brooks stands at the counter, tying her hair back with practiced ease. She looks different now, not just healthier, surrounded by peace. Her posture is confident, her movements are unhurried. The constant tension that once lived between her shoulders is gone. Behind her, Lena Brooks sits at the table, sipping tea, her laughter light and easy, her health has stabilized. The lines of pain that once carved her face have softened into lines of joy. I still can't believe you're up before me, Lena teases. Aaliyah smiles. Some habits never leave. On the counter beside Aaliyah's bag rests a small velvet pouch, the ring still with her. Still shining, the morning passes calmly. There is no panic, no counting pills, no fear of phone calls, just ordinary life, something that once felt impossibly out of reach. Aaliyah steps outside into a quiet neighborhood filled with trees and children's voices. She gets into her car, used, practical, fully paid for, and drives toward the city. Her destination is a modern building with glass doors and a simple sign. The Brooks Community Health and Support Center. Inside, people greet her by name. Good morning, Nurse Brooks. Morning, Aaliyah. Thanks for seeing me today. Yes, Nurse Brooks. With the support she was given, Aaliyah went back to school. She studied tirelessly, driven not by ambition but by gratitude. She earned her degree, then another. She specialized in community health, working with families who live one crisis away from collapse, the very people she once stood among. She walks the halls with quiet purpose, stopping to listen, to reassure, to advocate. She remembers what it feels like to be ignored, and she refuses to let that happen on her watch. In her office, a framed photo sits on the desk. It's from years ago. Aaliyah standing beside Richard Halstead, both smiling modestly at the opening of the center. No grandeur, no headlines, just a shared understanding. Richard still visits sometimes, not as a savior, but as a supporter, a partner in something larger than profit. Kindness, he once told her, is the best investment I've ever made. That afternoon, Aaliyah helps a young woman fill out medical forms. The girl looks nervous, out of place, afraid. Aaliyah notices immediately. She leans forward, lowers her voice, and smiles. "You belong here," she says gently. The girl exhales, relief flooding her face, and just like that, the cycle breaks. That evening, Aaliyah returns home. She cooks dinner with her mother, laughter filling the room. Later, she sits on the couch, turning the rings slowly in her fingers. She thinks about that day. The humiliation, the silence, the stranger who refused to stay silent. She understands now that her story was never about jewelry or money or a store. It was about humanity, about what happens when prejudice goes unchecked and what becomes possible when compassion steps in. Here is the truth this story leaves us with. You never know the weight someone is carrying. You never know how close they are to breaking. And you never know how powerful one act of kindness can be. So choose empathy. Speak up when others stay silent. And remember, dignity costs nothing, but it can change everything. If this story moved you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful, inspiring stories like this one. Because the world doesn't change all at once. It changes one moment of compassion at a time.